Hi everyone and welcome to 3 Charts in 1 with me, Richard Perry, market analyst for Infinox on Friday the 17th of June. Now, we've had a bit of a wild ride on major markets in the last week or so and got 3 charts which are going to reflect that. We've got the euro-dollar chart in forex, looking at the oil price starting to break down a little bit, and also looking at the DAX, which continues to make lower highs, lower lows. So let's get straight into it with this euro-dollar chart. What we have seen is the sharp move to the downside in the wake of the ECB meeting. And then that's rebounded yesterday, a sharp move to the upside. But what we can see here is this, effectively what we're building is now a trading range, a new trading range, 103.50 up towards 107.80, 108, big figure effectively now. So that's what, 450 pips of range on that. But what we are seeing also is this in the middle of this range. Previously we had resistance around the 106 mark to 106.40. Interestingly enough, that is now a basis of a pivot area which is resistance on the downside. So I think that that's going to be bumping up against that. It's fallen over today. It's interesting also, we've got this downtrend that comes in here. If I go out one more level, you can see that downtrend started around February time. So that's a big downtrend that the euro will be taking account of, but I think still playing a selling into strength strategy on euro dollar now, and you can see that reflected, I think, also on the momentum of the RSI falling over under 50. So in fact, that resistance overhead around 106, and I think it's attracting now moves back towards 103.50 in due course. Moving on to the oil price, what we've seen is this uptrend channel. I've talked about this previously, but what has happened in the last couple of weeks is this area of a top pattern found resistance which came in, if I get the crosshair, found resistance that started to come in around that 126 mark. But ultimately what we've seen is the market coming back to test repeatedly the support around 120 and then breaking that support yesterday. And that breakdown really did complete effectively. If I go onto the 4-hour chart and zoom back here, this little head and shoulders top pattern. If you take that as a head and shoulders top, you can say that that sort of implies around about 114, 115 area of implied target. But also not only that, what we have is this broken uptrend channel. And with the moving averages also starting to fall over, the momentum on the 4-hour RSI is now more correctively configured. It all sort of points towards this drift lower, I think, on oil, and sort of selling in, I mean, on a very near-term basis. I must stress this, in this sort of run of lower highs that we've seen as the sort of momentum of the near-term chart falls over. It sort of suggests selling into strength on a near-term basis, and the resistance, I think, that's important here is the 123 mark. That's effectively the first lower high, that if that gets broken to the upside, you turn more positive again. But I think keeping that in mind, and then if we see this, if this rally falling over around here, again, that's another opportunity to sell for near-term positions towards that 114, 115 area. Ultimately, then I think on the daily chart, that starts to become an area where it finds support again, but that would be an interesting near-term correction. And finally, on the DAX, well, we've seen the DAX falling over sharply in the past 2 weeks, and it's now forming a position where old support becomes new resistance. You've got this gap that broke down at the beginning of this week, breakdown gap, but that gap has become resistance, 13,670 area. But also what we've seen is this old support of the May low that came in around 13,250, and that again is becoming the basis of resistance on the downside, following on for a sharp downside break yesterday. And it would suggest again that any rallies are a selling opportunity, and that I think will still continue to be the case whilst the resistance remains in place around that 13,680 area, 13,700. So I think looking at on a sort of near to medium term basis, you're sort of selling into strength for probably that looks to be a move towards the range, what is effectively now a range, but the range lows around that 12,000, sort of 450, 12,500 area. You've got the initial support from yesterday's low that comes in around 12,930. So I think that is sort of the gauge, but I think selling into strength is now the way to play all these, certainly on the equity markets anyway. So I wish you good luck in your trading today, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you very much.